appearance today for an 18-year-old charged in a deadly crash in Whitchurch, Stouffville earlier this month. That same man was also charged earlier this year in a crash with a car carrying Ontario's premier.
Yeah, let's take you to the Oshawa courthouse now. Our crime analyst, Steve Ryan, is outside with the very latest. What happened in court today, Steve?
Well, a decision has been put over by the courts, Lena, until Friday. At that point in time, the court will make a decision as a result of the evidence that was heard today at this bail hearing. So obviously, the bone of contention will be whether or not this 18-year-old will be detained by the court or released on conditions. If this was just a matter of this 18-year-old being released on conditions that he not occupy the front seat of a vehicle, let's say, for instance, the court wouldn't have put that over for 2 days, keeping him in custody while they made that decision. So Friday's decision, we will learn, I believe, whether or not this 18-year-old will be detained or not. Now, this comes as a result of some very serious allegations on August the 3rd. Police allege that this 18-year-old was driving a vehicle dangerous to the public. He's been charged with 1 count of dangerous driving caused death and multiple counts of dangerous driving caused bodily harm. A man died as a result of this collision. His wife and 3 children are in hospital being looked at for their injuries. He's also charged with failing to stop under the criminal code and public mischief. Public mischief is typically charged when somebody lies to the police and causes the police to enter into an investigation based on your lie. So these are all the criminal charges that this 18-year-old is facing. As we mentioned earlier on, he is also accused of dangerous driving involving collision with one of the Premier's government vehicles back in January. So you can see that there are multiple allegations here when it comes to concerns for the protection of the public, and this is why most likely the Crown is seeking a detention order. All of these are just allegations not proven in court, but these are very serious allegations, ones that the Crown takes seriously, the court takes seriously as well, and this is why now they've had this bail hearing, and we will learn within the next 48 hours, I believe, whether or not this 18-year-old will be released on very strict conditions or kept in custody. So back to you guys.
Wow.
All right.
Okay. CP24's Steve Ryan reporting live for us. Steve, thanks so much for that.
An update to a story brought to you this weekend. A man who was injured in a home explosion in Barrie has died. The blast happened at an address on Marshall Street near Thorncrest Road shortly before noon on Saturday. 45-year-old man found amongst the debris, rushed to hospital with life-threatening injuries. Police say they found out he died. The fire marshal is investigating into what happened.
I believe everyone's more productive when they're at work, and how do you mentor someone over a phone? You can't. You got to look at them eye to eye, over the water cooler, wherever, train them, camaraderie, plus the economy too. I'll just use downtown Toronto, for example. The path. You know, there's hard-working entrepreneurs that their businesses basically just died when, when they weren't seeing the flow of traffic. But I understand all the companies I've talked to, from the banks to the insurance companies to everyone else, everyone needs to go back to work. Half the public service is already at work 5 days a week, and I want to thank them. And I just look forward to having everyone back to work.
And just on the topic of why now, is the big bank sending people back to work and Rogers sending people back to work, did that factor into your government's decision on why to do this now?
No, I think it's just time. Everyone's kind of saying it's time to get back to work. It's simple as that. So we look forward to having everyone back. I'm very grateful for the work they do. We have best public service in Canada, and I appreciate the work they do.
That's right, Phil and Lena. A lot of the air flight attendants we spoke to today say they are not getting paid enough and that they are living below the poverty wage. And that has been the sticking points when it comes to negotiations between CUPE, the union representing Air Canada flight attendants, and Air Canada. It is crunch time right now when it comes to reaching a deal. If a deal is not reached, flight attendants could walk off the job as early as Saturday, and that would cause chaos as Air Canada is the country's largest airline. And today, across the country at 4 major airports, Toronto here, Montreal, Vancouver, and Calgary, Air Canada flight attendants held a day of action, silent protests. At Pearson Airport, they came in by the busloads. Around 400-500 flight attendants in uniform stood outside holding signs talking about these unpaid wages. They're saying that they are working for hours without getting paid, doing things such as deplaning, helping passengers load their baggage, saving safety checks, all doing this work for free. That is because the common practice right now is that flight attendants only get paid for when the plane is actually in the air. They don't get paid for the duties they do before and after the flight takes off. They're saying that really adds up to hundreds of hours of unpaid labor a year, and now they're making wages they say is unsustainable in big cities like Toronto. Take a listen to one flight attendant we spoke to earlier.
We had a food bank set up in our local office because we have flight attendants that can't afford to eat. We have flight attendants living in multiple rooms in bunk beds because they can't afford. We have flight attendants who are fabulous at their job, and it could potentially be a breaking point between them choosing, do I stay in a career I love, or do I allow myself to be able to eat? That shouldn't be the case. We're safety professionals first and foremost. We should be compensated properly and fairly for the work that we do. So I'm very proud of everybody that is here.
Over 99% of members with CUPE voted in favor of a strike, but the glimmer of hope here is that CUPE and Air Canada are both talking right now. Bargaining negotiations are underway, and both sides have said they would like to avoid a strike. We got a statement from Air Canada. We'll read you part of that. They say, in regards to the talk themselves, Air Canada remains at the bargaining table and is focused on achieving a negotiated settlement with CUPE, one that recognizes the contributions of its flight attendants by making them the best compensated in the country, and that also supports the competitiveness and long-term growth of the company. As for the protests today, Air Canada says this didn't cause any interruptions when it comes to flights. Travelers were able to get in and out as usual. However, if a deal is not reached soon, flight attendants could legally walk off the job this Saturday. And Lena and Phil, that would cause chaos when it comes to travel, especially during a peak summer season.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of families trying to get that last vacation right before school starts.
For sure. And that is anxiety nobody needs, especially not parents who are traveling with their kiddos, as you said, right before school starts. Sija Liu reporting live from the airport. Sija, thanks so much. One person is in custody following a multi-vehicle crash downtown. This is a developing story, and this right here is a live look near Nathan Phillips Square this hour. That's where the scene is. You can see the intersection is blocked off. TTC bus on scene, as well as this area has been cordoned off. Police say a vehicle struck several parked vehicles and a police cruiser just before 3 p.m. This happened near Bay and Albert Streets, downtown Toronto. The extent of the injuries, not known. Bay Street is closed from Queen to Dundas. Keep it here on CP24 as we keep a really close eye on this developing story.
Halton police have released images of a man accused of committing an indecent act in Oakville. The suspect is in his mid-30s with medium-length brown hair and was last seen wearing a blue t-shirt and white shorts. Here's a photo of him. Now, police say on Monday he rang the doorbell of at least 2 homes on Peely Boulevard and committed an indecent act while facing the doorbell camera. Investigators believe there may be additional victims.
What really bothers me lately, and I got to have a chat with all the retailers, the big 5. I've heard many stories that you're outsourcing out of our country when there's great manufacturers here. I heard a story yesterday that you're going to Thailand, you're going to China, pulling business away from Ontario workers. If I have to put a Canadian flag and every other flag on every single product and legislate it until the consumer can see that you aren't pulling the wool over their eyes, because that's what they're doing, and I still have to get a can of Campbell soup that's putting that Canadian flag on, that's not being manufactured here, misleading the people, and getting it, getting it produced in Camden, New Jersey. The can, the label, the stuff inside. And do you know what they put? Recipe of Canada. Do you think the people of Ontario are that dumb? Like, I'm gonna call you out and get one of those cans, I'm gonna rip that label off and encourage people to buy made in Ontario, made in Canada soup. And maybe what you should do is bring back your manufacturing facility that you closed down in Etobicoke and got rid of hundreds of people. But I just can't stand sneaky companies that do stuff like that.
This just in to CP24. Lil Wayne's show in Toronto tonight, it has been postponed at the last minute. Budweiser stage posting this message online. It reads, due to unforeseen illness, Wayne's Toronto show tonight will be postponed. As his fans know, he loves putting on nothing short of the best performances for those who come out, and he was so excited for this one. Please stay tuned for the new date coming soon. All previously purchased tickets will be honored for the new date once announced.
And the ways it keeps happening, Lena, Phil, are pretty extensive when you talk about the vandalism. One of the cases back in December, well, not the same camera, because again, they've replaced them, but a camera at this same location was chopped down with an axe or something similar and then dragged to the Grenadier Pond nearby and submerged in water. So whoever or whomever's have been doing this ultimately have been putting in quite a bit of effort into taking these speed cameras down. We should mention that on top of the 6 that have taken 6 incidents reported at this particular site, there have been noticeable instances of vandalism similarly, with cameras being taken from other locations or destroyed or graffitied, but not just the usual bad words or the like, having them be blacked out so that they can't actually see any of the cars going by and are rendered useless. So we did hear from police earlier on in the afternoon, and I know we just heard from the mayor talking about other things, but she also had something to say about these cameras.
This is not a joke, folks. Speed kills. There are reasons why there are speed camera there. If you're breaking the law, we're going to tag you. We are going to ask you to pay. And that is precisely why there are speed cameras in multiple places.
So if you look at the numbers, the reason why this camera is so focused on, Lena and Phil, is because of the amount of money it rakes in for the city. It has raised about $7 million in change since it was installed about 4 years ago. And up until when it was taken out of commission for, I think, the 3rd or the 4th time, it was still, at that point, the most widely ticketing camera in the city. Back to you.
Lena, Phil, in the last couple of minutes, this was slated to start at 5. There were people here beforehand, but now I'm counting roughly between 3 and 4 dozen people that are here along the streets on Bloor Street, just in front of Dufferin Station. So we're at Dufferin and Bloor on the northwest corner. Behind the silver metallic building is the station. Now, when we were first talking about this demonstration potentially taking place, it was alerted to the media because of City Councillor James Pasternak saying that such a disruption, not only describing this as a mob, but that this would ultimately potentially, as he put it, quote, result in terrible accidents, fatalities, injuries, and property damage to critical infrastructure, which is why he had called on the police to either clamp down on these demonstrations or watch them with a very careful eye. So like I said, there's about 3 to 4 dozen people here, and I did do a quick count about 2 minutes before we came to air. So those numbers should still be rather reflective. There are several other demonstrations outside of the TTC subway stations along Line 2 through the main set of stations in the downtown core over into Danforth as well. So they're all being organized separately by individual groups, solidarity and justice action networks that have been built in different neighborhoods. This one is the Davenport group. We spoke to them earlier about, 1, what they thought of Councillor Pasternak's assertions of what they're doing, and 2, what they are looking to accomplish with this boisterous and distracting affair.
We want to raise awareness among the Canadian public, among our neighbours, among commuters who are passing through this intersection on their way homes, and let them know what their government is doing. The government has not been transparent about its actions, so that leaves it to us to do that education work with the public. We actually, in our conversations with our neighbours that we've been having for months, and especially in the last couple of days, we know that the vast majority of our neighbours agree with us. We're having extremely, people receive us with a lot of gratitude and appreciation when we hand them a flyer on the street, and are encouraged to see people taking action and elevating this demand and really raising awareness about what's going on.
Now, there have been some that have described what these demonstrations were expected to be as, again, they're using words such as mobs. The organizers told us before that they were expecting a more family-friendly affair. Without putting children on TV for no necessary reason, there are several kids that are in the demonstration along with their parents. And this historically goes back to a tradition from Quebec. They're called les casseroles, when they would beat pots and pans as an act of defiance and demonstration, usually against what they would find to be either government austerity or the like. But there's this historic tradition in Canada of banging pots and pans on street corners. And besides for me and a few other people in the middle of the sidewalk, Lena and Phil, ultimately the 3 or 4 dozen people here are keeping off to the side, but making a loud noise.
All right, Andrew Brennan reporting live on these ongoing rallies this evening. Andrew, thanks so much for this.
Well, stargazers in southern Ontario spotted something rather unusual in the sky last night.
Yeah, you might have seen it as well. The strange bow tie-shaped light has since fueled dozens of online posts and online speculation about what could have caused the phenomenon. Many suggesting it's likely an exhaust plume from a rocket that launched from Cape Canaveral last night. So for more insight on this, we're joined live by York University professor Jesse Rogerson. Jesse, it's great to see you again. So yeah, there are a lot of speculations out there online. Yeah. Some people freaked out by what they saw because they couldn't immediately identify it. But can you confirm that this is in fact from a rocket launch from Cape Canaveral?
That's right. This is the spent stage of a Vulcan Centaur rocket that launched from Cape Canaveral last night from the United Launch Alliance company. So this was a scheduled launch. We all knew it was going to happen. It was a payload from the United States Air Force with a couple of satellites that were going up to do, things that we're not allowed to know about with the military. So this was the first fully run rocket by ULA to deliver payloads to space, and it was replacing their old Deltas and their old Atlas V. And so when you launch something like this, when you launch a big rocket, especially this one which was going to geosynchronous orbit, 30,000 kilometers away, you need a lot of fuel, and you drop your stages as you go. So as you spent your fuel, you get rid of part of the rocket to make your rocket lighter and easier to push farther into space. And when it's falling back to Earth over the Atlantic Ocean, it's still slightly burning. And so you see that plume from the fuel, from the exhaust that's coming as it's sort of fizzling out and falling back to Earth. And it looks wild when you look at it. Look at that thing. It looks like what could you possibly put your finger on to know what that is? But it is just a rocket that's falling back to Earth. Standard rocket procedure.
So this is basically just sort of space junk burning up, coming back down to Earth.
Coming back down to Earth. Now, the way they're doing things is like a semi-smart reuse things, just like the way SpaceX is doing stuff. Okay. So when you launch stuff to space and it comes back to Earth, then you preferably would want to recover that and reuse it. And the Vulcan rocket, which is sort of competing with SpaceX's Falcons, would be trying to do something similar. So they're in the early stages of using the Vulcan Centaur, the sort of heavy lift one from the ULA company. So this is an example of how you bring something back to Earth.
Oh my gosh. So talk about the scale and size of this thing and the fact that it was so bright that people here could see something that's being launched from Florida.
So what I love about this is that we're right in the middle of the Perseids, right? So the Perseid meteor shower is happening right now. It's at its peak. Unfortunately, we have the full moon or the semi-full moon to sort of contend with, but a lot of people were out looking. Right? You're out, hey, can I see some streaks of light going through the sky? Wonderful light show to see. And then you see this plume, and when humans are terrible at figuring out how far away something is in the sky, especially at night. And so looking at that, it looks like it's like hovering overhead, when really it's thousands of kilometers away down, just flying over the Atlantic. So it's the reason you can see it is because it is very high. It's 50-ish kilometers up there, but it also is very, very bright. So it's actually floating over the Atlantic as it's moving to low Earth orbit, then off to geosynchronous orbit. So really, really far away. That's why it looks like it's not moving very quickly. And it's just amazing that it's so far away, but you can see it.
Wow.
Jesse, really quickly, have we missed the Perseid, by the way, or is there still a chance to watch over the next coming days?
you still get a chance to watch it. It's starting to wind down now, but tonight's a good night to see. The problem is if you're in a big city or if you're contending with the moon, you might not see a ton of them, but it's definitely worth it to see a few, in my opinion. So get out there and take a look if you can.
Definitely.
Okay, always so fascinating. Jesse Rogerson, York University professor, appreciate your time and insight. Thank you.
Well, a man charged in connection with the deaths and dismemberment of 2 people is expected to appear in a Barrie courtroom today for a bail hearing. 52-year-old Robert Ledouceur is facing multiple charges, including first-degree murder, second-degree murder, and 2 counts of indignity to a dead body. The charges follow an extensive search of an encampment on Victoria Street in Barrie after the reports of a missing person. The victims have now been identified as 45-year-old William Blake Robinson and 41-year-old David Cheesky.